Welcome back, everyone, to the Bears Papa Plays YouTube channel. Today is Saturday, October 19th, and I'm back, and we're back with a brand new Saturday slate of games in the NCAA. Football on the weekends as we continue with the best month of the year. We have a packed slate on Saturday with a bunch of top 25 matchups. As always, going to be breaking down the four biggest plays or the biggest games of the week, and then we're going to look at the three best player props for Saturday's slate, and then the other plays. We have a total of 5 other plays today that we're going to be breaking down. A total of 9 game picks, 3 player props. But first, we've got to take a look at the recap graphic from Friday night. I am recording early. It is currently 5:40, so the games have not started yet. We do have BYU minus 9.5 going up against Oklahoma State. Ryan Brown over 173.5 passing yards against Oregon, and then Chase Roberts over 155 or over 55.5 receiving yards going against OK State. If you're interested in baseball, Mets are up 8-2, and Freddie Freeman just struck out looking with the bases loaded in the 4th inning. So if you got the Mets, good for you. Let's take a look at the leaderboard, though, for college football. 72-51 on the year, 21 games above 500. That's what we like to see, but let's take a look at the games for Saturday. A couple big matchups here. First play, Nebraska going up against Indiana, and we're nearly halfway through the college football season, even though that hurts me to say because it feels like it's going way too fast. I think you guys know all the players on these teams. I'm going to try to go a little bit faster on these breakdowns. I'll just give you guys my 2 cents, and then you guys can make your own decision. But the first game, Big Ten battle, Nebraska going up against Indiana. Indiana has not been tested yet this season. They have been extremely good so far this season on both sides of the ball, but they really haven't been tested. I do think they're going to win this game just because Nebraska, historically going up against top 25 teams, have been brutally bad. But I'm not comfortable laying the touchdown going up against Nebraska here for Indiana. So I am comfortable taking the under 49.5 points, though. We have 2 top defenses in the country going head-to-head in this game. And with the way Nebraska's been playing with Dylan Raiola over the last several weeks offensively, I don't know if they're going to be able to put up a lot of points. And I also think with Indiana not being tested offensively, this is going to be their toughest test of the season, obviously going up against Nebraska. They're also going to struggle a little bit here. I like both these defenses. I think we're going to see a tightly contested game. I just don't see a lot of points being scored. So give me the under 49.5 points as the first play. For the next play, we're going to be looking at Tennessee going up against Alabama. Tennessee's put me in a really tough spot this week. They're at home, and that's why I'm going to take them +3 as the play. I believe it was 4 games ago for Tennessee. I thought they were one of the best teams in the country up there with Texas, but they've now laid back-to-back eggs going up against Florida and Arkansas. I don't know what happened to this team. They're still 5-1 in the season, just like Alabama. Both these teams losing to teams that they should have taken care of. Vanderbilt for Alabama and Arkansas for Tennessee. Alabama last week also almost lost to South Carolina, so they almost dropped back-to-back games. So neither of these teams are playing their best football coming into this game. The reason I'm going with Tennessee is the defense. Everything has been failing for Tennessee this season over the last 2 games, especially offensively. The running game's been good. No idea what's wrong with Nico right now, but this is one of the best defensive units in the country. And if we're going to talk about defense winning this game, Alabama defensively has had some really bad games. Vanderbilt did whatever they wanted in that game. South Carolina did whatever they wanted in that game to an extent. Wasn't as bad as that Vanderbilt game, but you would think Alabama coming off of a loss to Vanderbilt, that defense would have a little bit more juice going up against South Carolina, and it really just didn't. Florida and Billy Napier, they had their chance against Tennessee. Billy Napier's got no heart whatsoever. You can call what you want with Billy Napier. Tennessee, they shouldn't have went to overtime. Florida had a chance to win that game by going for 2 points. No reason to take that game to overtime. Florida made the big mistake, and Tennessee takes it in overtime. I do think the defense for Tennessee, though, will win in this game. Haven't been impressed with either of these teams so far over the last 2 games, but it is a top 10 matchup. We got to break it down. Give me Tennessee +3. Not a game I'm very confident in. Maybe put a half unit on this one. I bet everything that I talk about, but this isn't a game that I'm looking at to make a lot of money off of. But if I've got to take a play here, it's one of the best games of the slate. So give me Tennessee +3 as the play there. For the next play, we're going to be looking at Michigan going up against Illinois. Illinois coming off one of the weirdest games of the season last week. They were beating Purdue by 24+ points in the first half. Then somehow, some way, Illinois only won that game by a point, 50-49 in overtime. It was a crazy game. I do think Illinois is a pretty good team. The defense last week looked extremely bad, and I think Michigan can take advantage of that. This defense for Illinois, they looked horrible. They're going to run all over them in this game. Michigan also put in a forward pass last week, something they haven't done all season long. They put in the third-string quarterback Tuttle, not Turtle, Tuttle. That is Tuttle. He threw the ball last week going up against Washington, or actually 2 weeks ago, coming off the bye week now for Michigan. But Michigan has to look a little bit more balanced now on the offense. They can run, they can throw. I think that's going to throw off Illinois defensively, and Illinois ranks bottom 100 this season in rushing defense. So that's a major problem for them. This is going to be some gritty football. And remember that Penn State game that Illinois faced off against Penn State? Feels a lot like that game. Not comparing Michigan to Penn State because Penn State's way better than Michigan, but Michigan's going to want to run the ball. Illinois is not great at stopping the run. I'm taking Michigan here -4 as the play. Let's take a look at the last game for the graphic side. We're going to be taking a look at the best game on the slate. Everybody's talking about this game. Everybody's excited about this game. Georgia going up against Texas. I've been wrong about Georgia a lot, but I don't think I'm wrong about this one. Give me Texas, -5. I think they're going to win this game in a blowout. The Longhorns, they're the best team in college football this season. I thought Georgia was going to be better than they are this year. I thought they were going to come out against Kentucky, beat Kentucky by a blowout margin. They barely beat Kentucky. I thought they were going to come out against Mississippi State, blow them out against a very bad SEC team. Mississippi State found a way to stay in that game, only losing by 10. This is just not the same Georgia team that we're used to seeing, where they have one bad game and then they dominate everybody else. This team has some real problems, both defensively and offensively. Texas has had one of the best offenses in the country. They have one of the best defenses in the country, and they're going to get a lot of pressure on Carson Beck. He's going to crumble like a cookie. Typically, over the years, this would be a game that Georgia comes out, shows the world that, hey, we're still Georgia. We'll take down the #1 team in the country, no problem. But Texas, they dominated Oklahoma last week. They really didn't play in the first quarter either. The defense kept them in that game in the first quarter. Quinn Ewers, he looked a little bit off coming back from that injury, but after the first quarter, Texas just dominated that game. Texas is the way better team here. They beat Oklahoma by a wide margin last week. Georgia coming off of that 10-point win against Mississippi State as a 35-point favorite. I think this is going to be a blowout. Give me the best team in the country, -5. I think they put up a big number on this Georgia defense as well as the play there. Let's take a look at some player props for tomorrow's slate. We're going to start in Colorado. Colorado going up against Arizona, and it takes a big man to step up and admit whenever he's wrong. And today I'm that big man because I'm going to be talking about Shedeur Sanders. He has been impressive over the last couple weeks, and last week he got my attention. I'm not ready to say that he's the best quarterback in college football. I'm not even willing to say he's going to be that good in the NFL, but I will say I was wrong at the beginning of the season. I didn't think he had it in him. I thought he was a selfish, kind of childish. Maybe he is those things, but you can't fake what he did last week against Kansas State. Top 3 wide receivers go down in this game. He still had 388 yards with 3 touchdowns. You see that L on his shoulder pad. He should have had an L and a D on his shoulder pad last week because he was a leader and a dog. Kansas State is a pretty good defensive team this year as well. They're very different from home and away, but that's the only thing I could say that could discredit the performance of Shedeur Sanders last week, but he was incredible. Colorado, they were down in that game. They found a way to not only tie the game, they took the lead, in that defense who was keeping them in the game the entire time in the second half. They crumbled in the last drive against K-State. This is going to be another good chance to take Shedeur Sanders here. Over 2.5 passing touchdowns, going to be plus money in this game against Arizona, who's given up a lot of passing yards in the season. And I don't know why I always go back to this game for Arizona, but they played New Mexico early in the season. New Mexico's a bad team. I don't know if you guys ever seen them play, but they're a bad team. Devin Dampier, the quarterback for New Mexico, 260 yards, 3 touchdowns. They were able to score 40 points on this Arizona team. I don't know why my brain always goes back to that game. Maybe because I watched it and was like, how the hell is Arizona this bad this season? But I don't think they're a very good defensive team. And I do think Sanders showed me something last week. I'm going to trust him this week. Give me his over 2.5 touchdowns. He is going to have at least 2 of the 3 wide receivers back, including Hunter. So I'm going to take the over 2.5 passing touchdowns as the play there. For the next play, we're looking at Texas going up against Georgia. Quinn Ewers, over 255.5 passing yards against Georgia. Michael Van Buren Jr. Anybody know that name? Does anybody recognize that name? If you don't recognize that name, that's the quarterback from Mississippi State on the season. They have 1 win this season, by the way. They've lost basically all 5 games by 20-plus points. Mississippi State last week put up 31 points on Georgia. They allowed nearly 400 yards of total offense. The quarterback, Michael Van Buren Jr., 306 passing yards, 3 passing touchdowns going up against a top 5 team. Georgia also played Alabama this season. We saw what happened in that game in the first half. Jalen Milroe went off. He had 374 passing yards in the game, 2 touchdowns going up against Georgia. There's no reason for Quinn Ewers in this game with under 300 passing yards. Take him over 255.5. I mentioned a little bit ago, slow start in the first half or the first quarter going up against Oklahoma, coming back for that injury, but he was perfectly fine after the first quarter. Oklahoma's a really good defensive team too, so he's got weapons all over the place. Georgia defensively has been really bad this season. I'm going to take Quinn Ewers over 255.5 passing yards as the play. And for the final play, Alabama going up against Tennessee. We're going back to the running back, Dylan Sampson, over 99.5 rushing yards against Alabama. We took him last week. He was the only player prop to cash because we got a couple injuries, but I'm going to trust him again this week. He's the workhorse for Tennessee. I don't know really what's going on with Nico in this Tennessee offense, but they have been relying on the run game for 3 consecutive games going up against Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Florida. This is going to be another game that they can use Dylan Sampson on the ground because Alabama has been giving up some chunk yardage to opposing teams on the ground. This defense has some weaknesses this year. They're giving up nearly 130 yards per game on the ground, and Dylan Sampson is one of the top running backs in the country, having 118 carries already in the year, 700-plus rushing yards, and 15 rushing touchdowns. I mentioned over the last 3 games, Tennessee has been using him a lot, 22-plus carries in 3 consecutive games. He's averaged 114 yards per game in the last 3. He has been good this season for them. Last week against Florida, 27 carries, 112 yards, 3 touchdowns. He's the reason they won that game. Give me his over 99.5 rushing yards as the play here. All right, let's take care of these last plays. Looking at the graphic plays here, we're going to rapid fire, starting with Auburn going up against Missouri. I know everybody hates Missouri. I sometimes hate Missouri myself. They looked horrible against Texas A&M. They did bounce back last week against UMass, a really bad team, but they did get their swagger back, I think. Missouri can score a lot of points. I haven't trusted Auburn all season long. They've been horrible. Hate the coaching over there. Give me Missouri. Minus 4.5 is the play. Like the Missouri defense as well. For the next play, James Madison University going up against Georgia Southern. We already talked about James Madison on this channel. I believe it was last week. They took on Coastal Carolina. They put up 38 points in that game. This is a team that can have 0 points in the first quarter. Then you turn around, come back in the second quarter. They can have 30 points before half. This should be a pretty interesting game because Georgia Southern is a lot like JMU. They can score a lot of points with the best of them as well. Neither one of these defenses has been great this season. I see a lot of points scored in this game. And this is a game that JMU can potentially put up 50-plus points again. They need to get in the good graces of the playoff committee for any chance to get that last spot in the playoffs. This feels like a North Carolina game for JMU. So I'm going to take the over 58.5 points as the play here. For the next play, Big 12 battle, Baylor going up against Texas Tech. Talked about Texas Tech being one of the worst defenses before in the Big 12. Haven't seen Baylor play a lot besides one game, and this Baylor team stinks. Baylor's given up 38 points to Colorado, 34 points to BYU, and 43 points last week going up against Iowa State over the last 3 games. Texas Tech is coming into this game as a top team in the Big 12. They're actually tied for number 1 with Iowa State and BYU. This defense, though, for Texas Tech, they haven't been good. 41 points to Cincinnati, 37 points to Washington State, and 51 points to Abilene Christian. They do have their own problems. They've been better over the last couple of games, but the problem with them being a little bit better is that they're still bad. They've given up 21-plus points or more in every single game this season. Neither one of these teams can stop anything. Both these teams have been scoring a lot of points this year. Give me the over 56 points in this game. For the next game, we have another big game here. LSU going up against Arkansas. This is a game that LSU cannot lose if they want to make the playoffs. You're going to see a lot of sharps and a lot of experts taking Arkansas. This is going to be a public play. Everybody's going to see LSU minus 2.5 on the road going up against Arkansas. Feels like the public's going to be all over that. A top 10 team, minus 2.5, just win by a field goal. I'm taking with the public here. Give me LSU minus 2.5. I don't know how much credit I can give Arkansas for beating Tennessee a couple weeks ago because Tennessee hasn't looked great. It's pretty easy to beat Tennessee if they can't move the ball down the field. And Arkansas's defense wasn't bad in that game either. But the problem for Arkansas is that LSU has no problem moving the ball down the field with Garrett Nussmeier. This is one of the better offenses in the country. I trusted Garrett Nussmeier last week going up against Ole Miss. He came through for us. I'm going to trust him one more time going on the road against Arkansas. Give me LSU minus 2.5 as the play. And finally, one more Big 12 matchup. TCU going up against Utah. The strange and wonderful Cam Rising hurt himself again last week going up against Arizona State. We were on Arizona State with the points. They found a way to win that game outright, and they really won that game because Cam Rising started. He looked extremely bad for Utah last week. He's not going to play this week. He does have an 8th year of eligibility if he wants to come back and play for Utah. But I'm being told by multiple sources online, on the articles, that we might not see Cam Rising play college football ever again. They're a very well-coached team, though, this Utah Utes team. They're going to win this game at home going up against TCU. TCU is one of the worst teams in college football this season at turning the ball over. This is going to be the best play of the day for myself. I'm taking Utah minus 3.5, backup quarterback and all. This team will not lose 3 consecutive games. They're too well-coached of a team. Give me Utah minus 3.5, best play of the day. So all the games wrapped up. Let's take a look at all of them. Under 49.5 points between Nebraska and Indiana. Tennessee plus 3 against Alabama. Michigan minus 4 against Illinois. Texas minus 5 against Georgia. I think that's going to be a blowout. Missouri minus 4.5 going up against Auburn. We have the over 58.5 points between JMU and Georgia Southern, over 56 points between Baylor and Texas Tech. LSU -2.5 on the road against Arkansas, probably going to be a public play. I don't care. And then Utah -3.5, best play of the day. Need to bounce back from that Kentucky loss last week for the best play of the day. That was brutal. We've got Shedeur Sanders, over 2.5 passing touchdowns, plus money going up against Arizona. Quinn Ewers, over 255.5 passing yards going up against Georgia. And then Dylan Sampson, over 99.5 rushing yards going up against Alabama. Guys, it's going to do it for the NCAA football plays and props for Saturday, October 19th slate of games. If you guys enjoyed the content, please sure to drop a like on this video and subscribe to the channel below. See you guys next video, and thanks for watching.